Hey folks, well, it is March. We're into March 2024. I got this old Mexico bike behind me. Man, it's been a pile of work. It's almost done though. I got a whole bunch of stuff done. I got so much stuff done to this bike. Nothing that exciting, nothing that sexy, but it is up and running and most of it's sorted out. What it still needs and what went wrong, other than what went right, because what went right is quite a list. Man, this thing needed some love for sure. Still need to do a Garmin mount on it, mount the little sat nav. I haven't even test drove this thing. I've had it around the block and that's about it before I started working on it. It was pretty rough then. I got it running and man, it was rough. Needs a battery, crankcase breather. I done the seat cover. That turned into a bit of a rodeo. Anyways, I got this seat from Thailand and it didn't quite fit. Like I had to stretch it over and I ended up ripping a little bit of it here. I got a little brutal with it and see how it's like I was forcing it and then the stitching's coming apart. So I don't know. When I get down to Mexico, I'm going to have somebody recover this seat because he got all kinds of good resources like that down in Mexico. You can get it saddled up with a nice leather seat and things like that. Man, the seat cover, I ordered it from Thailand. It doesn't really fit, so I stuck straps around it. I mean, it looks okay. I'm not going to a fashion show. This thing, my goal with this thing, I want it rideable. I want it mechanically sound. That's it. I don't even care what the paint looks like. I don't care about the chrome. I want a windshield. I want it to shift gears. And I want it to run nice. I want it to start. I want a good battery. Basically, I want something when I go down to Mexico. I don't want to do anything, man. I want to turn the key. I want to drink cervezas. And I want to hang out, go swimming at the beach, go for rides in the hills, that sort of thing. I don't want to be playing motorcycle mechanic in Mexico. So this thing's going to be good for sure. I had a little glitch with the electrical. It was drawing too much out of the headlight. So seat cover's done. I need to put horns on this thing. I think horns are pretty important in Mexico. You need horns for sure. Done the starter clutch. Man, there's been this thing, it still needs shocks. I need to change out the shocks. Yeah, they're too low. Yeah, that's it. I had brand new Yamaha shocks, man, and they need to go in. Brand new old stock. I don't know if they're any good. I'm going to put them on the bike and ride around, see if they leak. They're, let's see, part number 447-22210-22. Old shocks, man. Old sticker. And I had 3 of these things. I took one out and actually some bugger had put a used one back in. So I got 2 anyway, so that's a plus. Put on a 12-volt socket. Oh my god, the stuff I done to it. The ignition coils, all the ignition's done to it. Replace the fuses, the carbs, the spigots, the petcock, and the oil, the filter, plugs, tuned it up, valves. I got a rear brake that's leaking here. The piston had a little pit in it. And I wanted to get it back together and do other things, so it's been leaking. You can see the brake fluid on there. That's not good. And she's soft. That pedal's soft, man. So it's been aggressing air. Need to put the rack on, shocks. Man, it's looking good though. It sounds real good too. It's tight. Man, this old bike runs like a fuel injected model, even though it's got carburetors on it. If you got carburetors like this and you're running pod filters, these are BS34 Mikuni carburetors running pods, and you got an old KZ and you're wondering how to jet it, this is the settings. You'll find this immensely useful. It's 4 turns out on the pilot, mixed screw. It's 117.5 on the mains, and then it's 19.5 to 20 millimeter on the float height. That float height's so critical on anything you're working on, old carburetors. man, get the float height sorted out. If you got a problem where it's running rich all the time, float height. Check the float height. Check the float. Make sure it's actually floating, not sinking. It's a huge deal on these bikes, man. 1 millimeter equals about, I don't know, probably about 5 on the main jet. So it affects a lot. It affects a lot. Even half a millimeter difference on the float height. And everybody's a little different depending on where you live, altitude, humidity, heat, wear on the engine. But those are the basic rule of thumbs. Pod filters, if you're wondering, BS34s. 4 turns out, Pilot 117.5 mains, 19.5 to 20 mil on the float height. I don't know about this headlight. It's kind of big for it, isn't it? A little bit? I don't know. It was like an aftermarket MGO one. It was a copy of a, I don't know, it was a copy of an old Yamaha XS 1100 or something. It's a little bit too big for the bike. I don't know. I put the little idiot lights in there, just an oil light, and I think there's a neutral light in there. Just so many things. Put on electronic signal light relay. Man, if you got an old bike, this is what you put on. You know how you get an old bike and the flashers don't work? You got bad grounds here and there and whatnot. But more importantly, this whole flasher relay, you know, that come on these old bikes, they crack the bed. And so you get one of these electronic flasher relays. They're only like $5-10 or whatever. Heavy duty flasher. You know, it's one of those old things you hear on old pickup trucks. You go, you know, and you can hear it above the engine. These are really good. They come in 3-prong and 2-prong. Figure out which one you need and put on one of these old electronic relays. Man, it'll solve all your turn signal problems. A lot of times that's all it is. It's just your turn signal relay shot. It's old and tired and ready for the bin. So I got this bike, man. I got tires on it. I got Dunlop tires, nice road tires. They're Dunlop 404s, I think. I got heavy duty tubes in this thing. I got spare tubes. Look at the seat, got it recovered so it looks like something you might actually want to sit on. It's snowing out. It's like there's 2 feet of snow out. I was out on the motorbike the other day and now it's snowing out. So that's the way the cookie crumbles around here, man. Anyways, I was thinking going down, maybe Texas, take a couple months off, go down to Mexico. I need a break, man. I've been working a lot, so I just want to go out, go do a little wander, a little walkabout, you know what I mean? As they say in Australia. See how this old bike treats me. I think it'll be okay, man. I got good faith in these bikes, man. These old bikes. If you sort them out and if you do them proper, you might have a few problems still. I mean, you know, there's nothing certain in life for sure, but I think they're pretty good. They make a good robust motorcycle for, you know, the kind of riding I'm going to be doing down there. You see a lot of guys that go buy these R1200 GSs and adventure bikes, KTMs, Ducati, whatever. Man, forget all that stuff. It's just, if you just want to go down to Mexico and have a good ride, just bring a basic bike, folks. Bring a KLR 650. Bring a street bike, an old 600 Seika 2. Remember those? Or some just basic bike. Katana 600. They're cheap as chip. You can pick up a minty one for like $2,500. An old Katana. Fix it up. Put new skins on it. Man, they're such good bikes. There's some. I heard a story. There's some guy hill climbing up in England, and he used to turbo those bikes. He'd go down to the breakers. They call the wreckers the breakers in England. And he'd go down to the breakers and he'd get these engines and throw a turbo on. Little 600 Bandit engines. The old air oil cooled ones from back in 85 that they kept flogging till I don't know when, man. I don't know when they kept making those till. They sold a pile of them though. But man, they were tough. So anyways, adventure bikes. Man, that whole adventure bike thing. Do you know the problem? Here's the problem with bringing a BMW down to Mexico, down to Peru, down to wherever you're going. A lot of guys, you know, after Charlie Borman, Ewan McGregor, they done the long way around, and they went down from, they went all through Russia. Actually, they came through Calgary. The only 2 accidents he had on the whole trip, and 2 of them were in Calgary. But they went around the world sort of thing. They started in John O'Groats up in Scotland, and they went down, and then they went through Russia over to the west coast here. And then went out to the East Coast and then flew the bikes back to the UK. Only 2 accidents he had was in Calgary here. One just outside towards the mountains, and they had another one right in town. Some kid cut him off in a Honda Civic, which has been my experience. That's pretty typical riding around here. You know, you're not going to get killed in Indian traffic. You know, if you go to India and ride around an old Enfield, you probably get killed in Calgary. But yeah, so the problem with those adventure bikes though is that they're just so fragile, man. Like Jesus, and the parts are hard to get. And the other thing you gotta consider, if you're going, ever since he done that movie, The Long Way Around, I mean, it spawned a whole genre of people going on these weird trips to do the Road of Bones from Vladivostok to Madigan, out in Russia, and you know, back again. And you know, the difference between Charlie Boorman and Ewan McGregor and you though is that you don't have probably a support crew with a couple vans full of parts behind you and spare tires and a couple mechanics and satellite phones. And you know, these bikes, man, you know, the problem with them is this: you go down to, as soon as you leave the States or as soon as you leave Europe with them and you go down, you know, to Africa from Europe or wherever you're going, like, how many people are buying these bikes in other places? You know, like if you're in the middle of Peru and you bend up a rim or have a mishap on your BMW, man, you could be stranded there for months waiting on parts. There's a lot of import taxes with parts. You know, there's a lot of bribery you need to do to get the parts in, and then finding somebody that even knows what the hell they're doing, because you know, like I said, they don't sell these things locally in places like Peru and Colombia and down in Ecuador, El Salvador. I mean, as soon as you leave the States, there's some support in Mexico, but you know, if you're on a KTM, whatever, big adventure bike, I mean, you're on your own, man. The cavalry ain't coming, so you better know how to fix it. And I can tell you this: that when you get a bike like that in the shop and you got all the tools at your disposal, a lot of times you struggle, man. Like, there's all kinds of special tools you need. You need diagnostic software, and all the bikes are different. And you know, like, you can do it for sure, but I mean, you know, you're not fixing it on the side of the road in Mexico, man. You know, you're just not. That's not happening, man. So this old bike, that's why I like this old bike. I've always liked these old bikes for they're so good if you take care of them. They're not that sexy. The brakes kind of suck. The handling sucks. You know, that's the drawbacks. But you go slow, right? You just drive the bike within the parameters it was designed for. You know, you don't do 140 on it round corners, because it's probably not going to end well if something's around that corner in the middle of the road. So yeah, but I like the reliability. I like that sense of freedom, because it gives you a lot of freedom if you know the bike like the back of your hand, if you actually built it and went through it, and then it's simple enough that you can do it. And that's why the KLR 650, I should do a video on the KLR 650. It's like, they are like the mule of the adventure bike world. KLR 650 or the DR 650 too. That's also a very good overlooked motorcycle. For not much money, you pick up a DR 650 for like, I don't know, $3,000 in minty shape. You know, and a lot of times if you spend 4 or 5, you might get a chance to buy one. Some guy was thinking of going to South America, and he, you know, canned the idea due to health reasons or whatever. And he's bought all the tour tech stuff for it, and all the bags and the big tank. And the only thing I don't like about those bikes is the seat. I like these seats because they're bigger and they're more comfortable. And you put a windshield on this thing, and man, you're golden. It's got some good crash bars going on, and so there's it ticks a lot of boxes, these old bikes. You know, they're often overlooked. KLR 650s and DR 650 Suzukis. If you're going adventure biking somewhere, so to speak, man, you know, simplicity is where it's at. You know, you don't want some fandangled. Like, I wouldn't bring the FGR 1300 to Mexico. I wouldn't even think about it. Like, just from the point of view that the gasoline, a lot of times, has so much water and rust and dirt in it. And I'll tell you, fuel injected motorcycles, do not like dirt and water in the gas. You don't like that at all. You know, it trips up sensors. It's hard on the pump, and you know, so unless you're gonna take a whole spare basket of electronic crap with you, with your KTM or your FGR 1300, you know, just keep it in North America or in Europe, you know, because the moment you venture outside, like down in Mexico, plus the other thing too is, the nice thing about these bikes, these old bikes, is the rims were thick. Like, you can hit some serious bumps with them and they'll survive, man. They'll survive. And plus there's spokes, so there's a lot of flexibility there. Whereas if you get these cast aluminum, especially on the more modern, newer bikes, 2010 and up, I mean, you're bending rims all the time, man. You hit a bump and they bend. Like, if you look at them the wrong way, they're pretty wafer thin now. The ZX10R 05 had a recall on them. The rims were actually cracking. What guys are doing is they're doing wheelies with them and they're coming down hard, you know, like inexperienced riders. Because that ZX10R, 165 horsepower at the crank, and you could just wheelie on a whim with the throttle. You didn't need the clutch. Any gear, pick a gear and it'd just wheelie. But then, you know, it'd come up and a lot of inexperienced riders would slam it back down. And what it was doing, it was caving in the rim. It would fracture it. And so, I guess I've never seen it, but I heard there was a couple instances where they were actually collapsing. So, yeah, ZX10R Ninja DF7A from that year. Man, it's kind of shocking when you think about it. But when you took off the front rim on that bike, that ZX10R, there wasn't much meat on it, man. It was pretty wafer thin. Now, the FGR and bikes like this, it's got, like, you know, obviously more meat on the front rim, but you know, I've bent up the rim. I bent a rim on the Bergman 400 last summer, so you know, which is a first for me. I never really bent up rims before on old bikes, but you know, that's because they're making them so thin, and plus the roads are bad too. I mean, you know, it's funny. The bike I ride around here, I use dirt bike tires on it, and the bike I take to Mexico, I use street tires. So make of that what you will. Anyways, man, yeah, getting ready to go to Mexico on this thing. So hopefully it happens. I don't know. Sometimes life happens and, you know, you get busy. But, man, sometimes you just got to make things happen, right? Because life's short. Life's short, man. Days are numbered. So, you know, do it while you can. Do it while you got your health. One day you won't have your health. You won't be able to do stuff like this. So if you're sitting around pondering about a trip like this, do it, man. Just do it. It's like you only got so many days left. You know, it's kind of a depressing way to look at things, but it's absolutely true, man. The clock's ticking, so go enjoy it, man. Go do whatever you want to do. Anyways, I hope to do some recording, get this thing down to Mexico, and do some YouTube videos on it. Man, that'd be cool, eh? Just document the trip a bit, you know. I've never done that before, so bear with me. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed that. Bike's looking good. I'll keep you posted. Hopefully the snow stops and get a chance to get this thing out on the road, wear some rubber off it.